Okay, good morning, everyone. It is just 7:30. I understand that there's some traffic issues out there, and I think Cedar Road's backed up. We got the word, so I'm sure there'll be more people filtering in. But I know that you're all very busy in your lives today, and so I want to get started. And as people come in, that's okay. But if we'd start out, please, by everyone standing for the pledge. Thank you. I am sure, if we're all going to be honest, you woke up this morning and looked outside and said, I cannot believe I have to go to this thing. I know that's what I was thinking. I was going to call Nancy and ask if she wouldn't mind handling it for me, but I do appreciate you being here. As I look around the room, I do know most of you, and you are an integral part of what we do in New Lenox. So a lot of the information that we're going to talk about here today, you're familiar with. And I will thank you again, but let me start out by saying thank you for coming out here this morning in difficult conditions. We did have a conversation yesterday that next year we'll look to do this in April. It seems like every February we do this and the weather isn't great. Although in April, who knows? It could be 80 degrees or it could be 20 below. So, but we'll take our chances. I want to say thank you to Silver Cross Hospital, Ruth Colby, Leslie Newbon, and all of the people here. Not only tremendous partners with New Lenox in our community, but always willing to host and take care of our needs for anything that we need. So thank you very much. We're very grateful to have Silver Cross here, and we'll talk a little bit more about Silver Cross in the presentation. But Ruth, you and your staff are tremendous. I know you've got a great board, and thank you for all that you do for us. Nancy Dye from the Village, and Emily Johnson, the director of the Chamber in our New Lenox Chamber of Commerce, putting this together today as they do every year. They work very diligently for our community, for bringing new businesses in and for working with existing businesses. They are top-notch. Nancy and I had a conversation just a few minutes ago, and she asked if I missed her ever on the board. And I said, well, yeah, but no, not really, because of the job that you're doing for our economic development. I couldn't think of anyone that could do a better job for us. You bring a great deal of expertise and professionalism to our village, and we're very grateful for that. Speaking of which, Kurt Carroll, my village administrator, and all of our staff, they really are amazing. Our village board is very aggressive with what we want to do in our community, and we leave it up to Kurt and the staff to implement the policies and the plans that we have in place. And they really do a great job. People talk all the time about what a great place New Lenox is. And it's not because of the elected officials. Anyone can sit up in a meeting twice a month and set direction, but it takes the people that do the job every single day, day in and day out. And I know there are a lot of great communities around here, but I'd put our staff up against anyone else. They are truly tremendous, and we are grateful. And speaking of that board, in a time of divided politics at the local level, the county level, the state level, the federal level, I have been so fortunate in the 13 years that I've been mayor to work with 6 trustees that are all individuals. They have a strong mindset. They know what they want for our community, but we work together. And we do it right up there at the dais. Nothing's done in a back room. Nothing's done through phone calls. It's there for the public to see, and we work together well, so I'm really grateful for that. Kurt, I was just thanking you a minute ago. I don't know if you heard it all the way out there in the hallway, but so you checking the streets for us? Thank you. You do. See, even a better job than I thought you did. But I do. We've got a great village board, and a mayor is really only as good as if he's got 3 friends up there. And so it isn't anything that I do on my own. It takes the board to work together. And so I'm very fortunate as a mayor that for 13 years, that's what I've had. And because of who I am as a mayor and what I do, I also have to thank my assistant, Megan Applegate, who's here. I don't know, I've got a Megan at the office and a Megan at home, and I don't know which one has it worse. So they share the load, so thank you very much for that. All right, moving on, we talk about our village. Every mayor is going to say how great their town is, but it's backed up time and time again. You look at this survey, A-, the only thing that drags us down is the weather, C+. I can control that during triple play concerts, but other than that, I don't have any control over the weather. Had it not been for that Midwest weather, we'd be an A or an A+. I think we're an A+ community anyway. But you see our schools, our housing, it's good for families, jobs, all of these things that make New Lenox a great place to be. And as we move on through this presentation, you'll see that people recognize that. We market our community. We're very strong in marketing our community. You may have heard us on Cubs broadcasts or seen us on local cable. We're very cognizant of how important it is to let others know that we're a great place to be. So many people want to flee Illinois for a number of reasons. But a lot of us stay not just because of jobs, but because of family. My wife and I have 5 children. We have 4 that live in New Lenox. Thank you. Mm-hmm. We have 4 that live in New Lenox, 1 that lives in Australia. We have 5 grandchildren, with the 6th one being born today. That one's in Australia. It's really tomorrow in Australia, but so she's born tomorrow for us, but today here. But and my 5 of those 6 grandkids live right here in New Lenox, and so we're not going anywhere. We want to stay close to our family, and so as the mayor, it's important to me that we continue to make this a great place to live, because we want to stay close to our families and close to our friends. Why is New Lenox such a desirable place? It's, for starters, our schools. If you look at the school districts that represent New Lenox and the schools, the private schools that represent New Lenox, from the high schools, we've got Lincoln Way Central, Lincoln Way West, and Providence, of course, and then our grade school district, 122, Union, and St. Jude. Speaking of my family, my wife and all of my kids graduated from Lincoln Way Central. The 5th child graduates this year from Lincoln Way Central. They've all gone on to be very successful, as I know that our daughter will be, because of the tremendous well-rounded education they got there. And the same goes for 122. Our grade school district provides an amazing, well-rounded education for our children. And let's face it, it is the driving factor for why people come to communities. And our schools remain to be very, very strong, and we're very appreciative of what they do for our children, for our home values. Our home values remain strong, and that's again because people want to move out here and they want their kids to attend these great schools. Our partners. There's a couple that I want to mention that we don't have on here, and I want to start with the members of the press. It's not often these days that politicians are giving high remarks to the press. I think that's often because they don't want to look in the mirror. But the reality is that unless you have insomnia and you're watching our meetings on Channel 6 at 1 o'clock in the morning, Don, that's no, if I know people love Channel 6, but we rely on a fair, unbiased press to get the word out of what's happening. We don't always have to like what we read, but we have to hope that it's truthful, and we have that here in this area. We have that. There are a number of press outlets, and they do a tremendous job of asking good questions and just reporting the truth without any bias or slant. And so we're grateful for our relationship with the press. You see our other partners that we have up there, whether it's a local, county, state, federal government. We work well with our elected officials on both sides of the aisle. We're fortunate that we have both Republican and Democratic representation here. That's important in Illinois, that we can go to people on both sides and ask for help, and we get that help. Regardless of who we go to, they answer our call and they work well with us. Some of the other taxing bodies I do want to mention, number one, our fire department. This community stepped up and passed a referendum. People don't want to pay more in taxes. Certainly in Illinois, we don't want to pay more in taxes, but providing quality service for our people is what makes this such a great community. And I'm very grateful that the people stepped up. Our fire department does an amazing job providing safety for our community, and so they're able to function. We just got a report the other day at the village meeting of what they're doing with those funds to keep us safe. And we have a library referendum that's coming up. Again, nobody likes higher taxes. Fortunately for us, in this library referendum, the taxes would remain the same. There isn't a need for an increase. It's just a need to keep the tax rate in place. They've got a beautiful building, and you'd be surprised at how many services they provide for young and old in our town. And so, although I try to be fiscally conservative with that, I realize that you can be penny wise and pound foolish, and we need these partners to be able to run at full capacity to keep our community at full strength. And so, Michelle, thank you for all that you do at the library, the board, the Friends of the Library. You provide great services, and I'm certainly hopeful that you're successful in that, because we need you. And you're also a part of our Commons area where we do so much. And we're going to highlight some of that a little later, but we do have partners like the library, Old Plank Trail Bank, and Trinity Services, who have representatives here. Trinity does such a great job. They're growing in our community, and we're thrilled to have them in the Commons. And all the things we like to do for people in our town wouldn't be possible if our partners there in the Commons didn't work with us. And so not only do they provide great services in their own right, but they really do work well with us. So thank you to all of our partners. Premier Healthcare. There is nothing more important than having quality health care close to home. Nothing more important. Look at this. For our town, we're a community of nearly 30,000 people, but you see this health care. This is not just for New Lenox. This is regional health care. People coming from all over. Used to be that if you had cancer or you had a loved one that had cancer, you had to travel a great distance. Now you can do it right here at home. Rehabilitation services. There's so much that's here to offer right here at this campus, and certainly throughout our community and other areas. There's so much that there is to offer, and I think we can all appreciate that. Certainly the older you get, or the more kids and grandkids you have, the more important that health care is to you. And we promote that. We love to see the growth of health care. You look at Silver Cross, just look at what's happened here. This was supposed to be a 289-bed replacement hospital in 2012. And look at what this campus has grown to be, led to over 500,000 square feet of medical facilities, representing an investment over $60 million in our town. And I won't go through that entire list. You can see it to yourself. As I talked about the Cancer Treatment Center, Surgical Center, Silver Oaks Behavioral Hospital coming here, dealing with mental health issues and dealing with addiction issues are critical in this country, in the world. And it's something that we still continue to kind of bury our heads in the sand in, but we don't do that here in New Lenox. We welcomed Silver Oaks. We want that treatment here. There are so many people that are dealing with these mental health issues and these addiction issues. And we find more and more now, for a myriad of reasons, younger people in particular are seeking out this type of assistance. And we need to make sure that it's readily available to them so they can grow to be healthy adults physically and mentally. It's a discussion that people often don't want to have. When you talk about addiction, it's real easy to talk about a criminal justice system. I can assure you from 22 years in law enforcement, that's not going to solve addiction problems. We need to deal with it. We need to deal with it head on, and I'm proud that we have that right here in New Lenox. We are growing in other ways too. If you look at some of our growth chart here, our population, as I said, we're approaching 30,000 people with over 8,500 households, 42% college graduates with a median income of over $100,000 and a median age of 37.6. Boy, I'm getting further and further away from that, but that's all right. Comparisons. These are all great communities, and I had a meeting yesterday late afternoon with 4 other mayors and police chiefs dealing with some of the crime issues that I'll talk about here in a second. You can live anywhere in this Lincoln Way area or a little bit north and find great homes and find great services. And so we support our partners. We want to see them grow like we're growing. Here, you look at our growth here in New Lenox, we're doing very well. We're doing very well, and so is our partners. We're only as strong as our neighboring communities as well. And so we work together for all of you, and we're going to continue to do that. As far as household starts go, we've been really consistent. The exception of 2017, where we had Alden Horizon on South Cedar that came in with 53 multifamily. The last 3 years, we've been in the mid-140s range. Since 2014, with new housing starts, that's really pretty tremendous to see our community grow like that. And we have got 43 square miles ultimately where we can continue to grow with a population one day that will be between 90 and 100,000 people. So we're growing steadily, we're growing consistently. That's important not only to attract new development here, but to keep our schools going. And so I like the way that we're growing quality housing coming to our community. And again, you see those housing starts and that we're staying competitive with our neighbors, but we want to see them grow as well. And a lot of these towns are seeing that good growth. Okay. Speaking of growth, new buildings. Total construction value of permits, $44 million in new residential, 13.5 in commercial, 5.6 in industrial, 5.7 institutional, almost $70 million in new investment. We've got many new businesses that are coming, commercial permits that are coming, which is obviously good for our tax base as well as services that are provided. The big talk in this area has been, of course, industrial growth. There's a lot of talk about warehousing and industrial growth. Even though these communities that neighbor us are our partners, we're all different. We're all unique. We all have to do what we feel is best for our town. Now, there's a lot of warehouse growth that's happening to the west of us and conversation about it happening to the south. Whether that makes sense for that community or not, or those communities, is up to them. Here in New Lenox, we've taken a different approach. We have the Cherry Hill Business Park that's been in place for roughly 20 years at Gauger, between Haven and Illinois Highway, and even south out to Laraway it will expand. There's plenty of room for expansion there. We feel that's the appropriate place for that type of growth. We don't feel it's appropriate at the 355 corridor up here by our hospital. We don't want to see it on I-80 at Route 30 where the old Kmart site is, although we want to see that redeveloped. We don't want to see that be any type of industrial. We've had requests for the vacant land east of Gauger, between Nelson and Gauger, between Haven and Illinois Highway, all that vacant land to be industrial and warehousing. Our board unanimously feels that that's not appropriate, that does not fit into the character of our community. Again, it's not a judgment on other towns or other cities, but for us, we don't feel that it's appropriate. We want to limit those warehouses and those trucks to that Cherry Hill Business Park. There's a great deal of concern with the damage that's being done to roads by trucks and warehouses. Of course, the other side of the argument are the jobs that are created and dollars that come in. And so we don't judge others, but for our town, we're not going to see that. Up at 355, when you go north of here, you see a lot of big box. You see a lot of warehousing. What we have here is unique. We have a medical campus. This medical campus should be supported by hotels, restaurant, 55 and older community, that sort of thing. If we were to put industrial up here, where we have a lot of vacant land, I mean, that would just be extremely detrimental to one of our most important assets in the community. So again, people say to me, we want you to say no to North Point, no to industrial growth, go fight it over there. Well, we'll say no to it here, and we'll do what we can to protect our borders and our community. But again, each community has to do what they feel is best. Will County is growing rapidly. And as far as the state goes, Will County deserves a lot more attention because of the good growth that's happening here, the jobs that are being created here. We deserve a lot of infrastructure improvements. I know Margot is here and she's worked very hard for that. And
not more money than any other county except Cook.
More money than any other county than Cook. Mm-hmm. Which is amazing, which is how it should be. And so we appreciate our state representatives fighting for those dollars because we need it. We need it. But again, I digress, but that's our plan as long as this board is around for that type of warehousing and industrial growth. Total construction permits, look at that, over $20 million in permitting. Single-family homes, commercial, office, and retail, and industrial, and institutional. Now the census is coming up, the 2020 census. That's critical for people to make sure that they participate. Usually it's not an issue out here, but roughly $165 per head is what we garner as a community. So we ask everyone to make sure you fill out the census, you do it accurately. I don't like that it's done when kids are away at the colleges and the colleges get those heads, so we want those heads right here at home. We've got JJC, great place to go to school, so stay home and there you go. I see you back there, Judy. But that census is important, so it brings a lot of dollars to our community, and it also helps when we're promoting our town, when we talk about our population and who's here and bringing in that type of development. Speaking of that growth, 34 new businesses opened in 2019. You'll see on the next few slides some of those businesses. This is also a good time for me to answer when people say, why do you build new businesses when you've got a few vacant buildings? Well, those vacant buildings are privately owned, and we can't tell people what to ask for their price. There are a lot of people that are interested in occupying those vacant buildings, but the building owners have to decide what they want to charge, what they want to accept, what's okay. We bring businesses to them, they solicit. But if they can't come to an agreement, we can't force them to sell. So people always ask, why are you building something new when you've got a vacant building? Well, that's exactly why. And if someone's going to invest in this community, they have a right to decide where they want to invest. If someone owns a piece of property, they have a right to decide what they want to sell it for. I mean, you could put your house up for sale for $25 million tomorrow. There's nothing against that, but you're not going to sell it. Well, if you do, good luck to you. But that's why. So I answer that question quite frequently from people. Why are there a few vacant buildings? We don't have many. And what this next slide will tell you is that we do have people who are reinvesting in our community. Businesses with new owners, or people reinvesting, building, they're here, but they're building new. They are taking over some of these existing buildings and rehabbing them. And so we see great growth in a time where it's still difficult for that type of commercial and retail development. You look at the next slide here of more growth that's coming here in 2020. Now, we talked about Pete's Fresh Market. That's one that people ask about all the time, where our Cooper's Hawk is. That is coming. They start construction later on this spring. Like a lot of projects, and when we talk about the train station, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, I'm going to go put a shovel in the ground and let's go. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot that goes into it. Pete's is absolutely coming. They've submitted plans to us. We're moving forward. But you know, they also opened a couple of new stores, and so if those take a little longer to open, then by the time they get to us, that takes a little longer. You look at the construction season, but we're excited to see them come along with all of this other new growth that you see coming here. So our train station, we are excited about that. It's construction starts this spring. That was a big project. There's a lot of entities that we had to work with on that. Metra, IDOT, EPA. There's a lot that has to be done to get some of these businesses up and going, but our Metro station starts. The building itself, including the extended platform, will be completed by November. Hopefully by the time the snow flies, you'll be under roof. And then July of next year, the parking lot. We've got to redo the entire parking lot configuration. Now, this is where the construction staging is going to be. You can see that's where the new station is going to go, further to the east, closer to the bigger block of parking, so it's more convenient for people. The hope is that for inbound trains, they will clear Cedar Road so those gates can go up and traffic can move. Of course, if they're outbound and going west, those gates have got to remain down until the train clears. But it's great to have this new station going, new redevelopment. We have a lot of people that travel downtown. And in the parcel just to the east of that, we have coming before the board residential development. The board will decide. There could be 200 plus units, high-end units that could be going just east of the train station there that will really help drive redevelopment. Our strategic goals, we meet regularly to talk about strategic goals. Fiscal stability, we are mailing out first week in March 80% property tax rebates to our homeowners. You know, admittedly, the average homeowner is only paying about $400 or so a year to the village for all the services we provide, but we're giving 80% back to our homeowners, and we're on track. I talked to Kim Oxtetter the other day from Finance. Next year we want that to be at 85%, and we're going to click it up to 100%. Where if you live in this community, you will get 100% of your property tax back. We've been doing that for many years, increasing it annually. We're at about $10 million, nearly $10 million that will have been rebated to our residents in property taxes. Our philosophy is very simple. We need tax dollars to provide services. That's how government operates. Whether it's a school, a village, a library, a fire protection district, park district, it doesn't matter. We need tax dollars. Our philosophy is we take what we need to provide the services and we give back to you the excess. And that's how it should be. That's how government should operate. That's how we do it here, and we're proud to do that. We are focused, as you can see, on development, redevelopment, our roads. We kept our promise for the last 10 years. of repairing up to 7 miles of local road a year. That means that every 20 years you should be getting a new street, a new local side street, which helps with your property values as well. We keep up with that. We used to be at 1.5 miles. Now we're at 7 miles a year. Our water system, we're doing water system capacity analysis of Route 30. Of course, we talked about marketing the village and updating our comprehensive plan. We're getting together to talk about the next set of goals for the next 5 years and plan on meeting all those. Again, Kurt and his staff do a tremendous job of making sure that we meet all those goals. Some construction to talk about. Route 30 and I-80 has been under construction and reconfiguration and will be for the next couple years. But that was a pretty dangerous on and off there. And with the added lanes that are coming to Route 30 as well as the turn lanes on the ramps, it's going to be great. Now, of course, the state says that I-80 itself is going to be under construction. I met with some legislators the other day that said the goal is to get the money first and then do the project. I'm hoping that that project moves forward. I'm not sure when it will go out to let and get going, but it's important that's a dangerous stretch of highway. It's important that that gets done. But at least our part, through our partnerships with the county and the state, we've been able to get at least this portion of our section of I-80 and Route 30 completed. All right, infrastructure is critical to keeping your community safe, to keeping the quality of life going. We already replaced the water mains on Cedar Road, and now we're replacing the water mains on Route 30 from Nelson Road to Church Street. Some of those water mains are 50, 60 years old. We can't keep having water main breaks. It shuts down businesses. It's tough for travel, so we're doing the Route 30 this year water main replacement. Our wastewater treatment plant that we've talked about, that is now in design. It's a 2-year design and a 2-year build out, but that allows us to close the wastewater treatment plant at Route 30 in Cedar, as well as the wastewater treatment plant in off Laraway in Jackson Branch, to shut those down. Well, that's in a residential neighborhood. And everybody's familiar with the wastewater treatment plant at 30 in Cedar. So to be able to turn those into pumping stations and just push all that out to a new plant that's far away. We met with over 600 residents in a meeting to come up with a location that people felt comfortable with, and we were able to do that working with our residents. So that's in design now. It's a 2-year design and a 2-year build out. So we're excited to see that get done. We also have a project that's been going on for many years with 13 communities, a Lake Michigan water redundant line to come out. We have Lake Michigan water. We've had it here since 2001, and we'll have this redundant water line just in case there's any issues to make sure we continue to have Lake Michigan water coming out. That's a $200+ million project. So between the wastewater treatment plant and the redundant water line, the village itself, just in construction costs, is well over $100 million our end on those 2 projects. That's a lot of money. And we had to increase our water fees, our sewer fees, which isn't popular, but we did it incrementally over the last several years. But you have to do that. Because what frustrates people more than anything in this state is when government kicks the can down the road and says, well, I'll let the next person deal with it. I'll let the next person deal with it. Next thing you know, you can't deal with it. The problems become too big. We don't do that here. We realize it's tough, but we make those tough decisions so we can continue to improve on our quality of life here in this community. And that's why people stay. They may take to Facebook and complain about it, but they're staying here and they're moving here. And they tag me about it all the time. All right, New Lenox has opportunities to invest. And the reason we show those 3 kind of circles is because whether it's north, central, or south, there's a lot of opportunity to invest here. We have a comprehensive plan that's updated that talks about the type of growth we'd like to see. Robin Ellis, you and your staff do an amazing job there. We appreciate all that you do. Robin has quite frankly, when you say someone has all the answers, it's often not true, but Robin has all the answers. She has been here, she's been here a long time. She knows what we want as a board. She knows what the community wants. She knows what's available. And so we know there are some people that are here today, we appreciate it, that are looking to invest in our community, to bring some new opportunities to our community. And between Robin and Nancy and the staff, they'll be able to work with you and show you how we can help and where it may be the right location for you. But there's plenty of opportunity to invest right here at 355 and 6. Just look at this. There's a 30,000 population within a 3-mile radius, 115,000 population within a 5-mile radius. The average daily traffic, 48,000 plus traveling on 355 at the interchange, and daily number of estimated visitors to the Silver Cross campus is over 5,000 as of March. And I'm sure that number is much higher with everything that's growing here every single day. You see over 5,000 people just coming to this campus. So why isn't there a restaurant yet? I don't know, you tell me. But there will be. There's a tremendous interest. We all know, we talk about it, once that first domino goes, it's going to go quickly. But like we do with our housing, like we do with our commercial, like I talked about with our industrial, we realize New Lenox is going to be here far longer than any of us elected officials. We need to make sure we are planning for the future. I talk to Kurt all the time. I don't want a future mayor or a future administrator to say, why did they do that? Why did they do that? Because it made sense for the moment. That's no good for us. That's no good for any of us. And so we look at the long-range planning. We care about the next generation. We want them to inherit something good and to be able to build on something good. It is worth the wait. This is by far, and John Grueling is here, he does tremendous work for all of Will County. John, thank you. I think he would tell you this is the premier spot in Will County for some really outstanding, unique growth. And to just throw something up to fill in a space does a disservice to the future of this community and to this area, because this is a regional location with a regional draw. So we will take our time and we will do it right. Off in the center of town, Route 30, that population with New Lenox and unincorporated, over 30,000 people within 3 miles and 90,000 within 5 miles. Almost 20,000 cars traveling in front of the Walmart every day. 20,000 cars. Now again, we worked hard with that development years ago. Russ Loby, our former administrator, was here. He did a great job back then as well. Robin was there then too, so that's why we say she's got all the answers. But had the thought to say, hey, you need to improve Route 30 now. This was a time when the state was doing nothing. That's a state route. And we could have waited for the state to do it, but we said to that development, no, you need to improve that section of Route 30. And so it was improved out there in front of that shopping center, in front of that area, and then ultimately, of course, Route 30 did get redeveloped, so we don't have those problems. We see in our area roads like LaGrange Road, and it's tough, where you're trying to play catch-up, constantly under construction. We don't have that. We're fortunate that we got ahead of it. We did it at some of the major intersections too. On the south end, like at Laraway and Cedar, where we made improvements, where traffic can move. Out on Laraway Road on the south, 33,000 population within 3 miles, 75,000 within 5 miles, over 10,000 cars at Schoolhouse and Laraway Road every day. That's a tremendous amount of traffic, and there's a lot of growth potential out on the south end of town. And we know it's coming, but we want to be responsible with it. We want to be responsible. That's where I talked about what we will allow and what we won't allow. And for us, there's a lot of housing out there, and so the commercial and retail development has to fit, it has to make sense, and it's not a place for industrial. It's not a place for warehousing there. It's too close to residential, but there's a lot of room for growth. All right, finally, we are a community. No matter how large we get, we try to keep that small town feel. We have so many great events in this town. Beth Alderson and again Megan Applegate and so many of our staff members pitch in. You look at what we have out to bring our residents together. Of course, we participate in a National Night Out, Ladies Night Out. We started this year a couple of new events, Cruise the Commons. Boy, those car events are really, really popular, so look for those. We have to turn cars away. We get so many that are out there. We did a chalk walk this year. We thought it was just going to be kids drawing with chalk. We had serious artists that were out there doing some really cool things. Of course, I have to look over here. Oh, 4th of July. The print is too small for my eyes. And a play day in the Commons. And then you see our Fridays after 5, a new event with a Water Lantern Festival. Live on the Lawn, our police department's Cabin Fever, our Wednesday night movie nights, our Oktoberfest. That area, that new Lenox Commons is where people gather, and we gather by the thousands, and we do things all seasons. We make sure there are events for everybody, young and old, to come together. And one of those highlights, of course, is the Christmas in the Commons. This year, Santa received letters in the mailbox by the Big Santa from over 2,100 kids, and they were all answered. But what's important to many of you in this room is that those letters that Santa answered went out to over 66 communities. So that just shows you how many people are coming into our town. And when they're coming into our town, they're buying gas, they're buying food, they're stopping to shop. They're looking around saying, why? Why don't we live here? Well, many of them do. That's why they look for housing. It's good for our realtors, it's good for our housing market. People want to come to New Lenox, and some of the amenities that we provide, that's another reason why they do. And speaking of Christmas in the Commons, we've got a little 30-second video that we'd like to show you, so enjoy that. Now, that was featured on the Hallmark Channel. A lot of people saw that. Don, you and everyone at Channel 6 do a tremendous job of helping promote our community as well as covering all of our events. Thank you to all you do. Countless hours by you and the volunteers, really giving people an opportunity, something to be proud of, something to see. So thank you, we appreciate that. And also, our triple play, bringing people together. 12 years we've had our triple play concerts. Normally, we try to announce all of them at one time. That wasn't possible this year. One of the bands put it out on their website, and people in New Lenox are always hawking the band's websites to see who's coming. So July 3rd, we have ZZ Top coming to play in New Lenox. They are obviously a huge international act, so we're excited to see them coming out. I've got offers out to 2 other bands. If we are successful in getting them, I can assure you there'll be just as much talk about them as there is ZZ Top. So there's only 5,000 tickets that are sold for that, and people enjoy coming out. It's so nice to see, and the reason we're able to get those big acts is because they all talk to each other. The management all talks to each other, and they talk about our crowd, and they talk about our respectful but fun-loving crowd, our residents and their friends that come out and have a great time and really represent our community well. And it is the reason why I am so proud to be the mayor of this town, to have raised our family in this town, and to see our kids raising their family in this town. Our partnerships that we have with all of you here, the residents that care so deeply about each other and about their community. I give them a hard time about what they put on Facebook and whatnot. But the reality is, although it may not always be expressed the right way, they care. They want to know what's going on in their community. They want to make sure that it's okay. And I get that. I would rather have that. As a school administrator, I say that to my teachers, and I'm sure the other school administrators do as well. I'd rather have somebody that cares about their kids, that cares about their community, that maybe sometimes is a little difficult to deal with, as opposed to somebody who doesn't care, somebody who's not engaged, somebody who's not involved. I'll take the former. It's worth it. It's worth the dialogue. It really is. Speaking of which, I do want to touch on one important subject that's been in the news, and the reality is it's been everywhere, not just here. There's been this concern about crime that's happening throughout not only Will County, throughout Illinois, throughout other states. You see the same thing happening. We again attacked this at the beginning. We were the very first community last year to have a town hall meeting on it that was televised to say, hey, start locking up your vehicles and start taking care of your property. Yes, we live in a great neighborhood, but you still have to be safe. You still have to be aware. Our people did that. Those incidents for us have dropped drastically. Those numbers are down quite a bit. But we do work together with our partners. Like I said yesterday, I had a meeting with 4 or 5 other mayors and the police chiefs talking about other things that we can do together to address these issues. So your safety is important to us, but really and truly, New Lenox is a unique village. It's a very special village. It's got great people, great businesses, great opportunities, and there's no other place that I want to call home. So thank you for being here today. I truly appreciate it. I'll stick around afterwards for a little bit. If anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to talk to you. And since we've been here, the temperature has dropped by 5 degrees. It's supposed to drop by about 5 degrees, they said, every hour for the next few hours. So please be safe heading home. And thank you again for getting up early and being here today.